The last part of the Navigator organizer is the publisher right here. What you'll see is that we have a whole series of publisher sets preset. The publisher is really used for when we want to do batch output of content. We're going to talk in a later session about saving DWGs, PDFs, coordinating with IFC, etc. But there's a few things in here worth noting. So when we're saving out DWGs in particular, we can save from the view map or the layout book. We can save to paper space or model space on the the AutoCAD side. So we have publisher sets set up for those. We can publish to PDF. You can also print to PDF straight from the layout book, or even just do a file save as PDF, depending on how much content you need. Where the publisher really shines is when you have multiple documents that you need to save out. So let's go ahead and pull up the organizer again and look at these two things side by side. So if I had a publisher set, then I needed to save PDFs for the interior designer and a PDF for the structural engineer and a PDF for the landscape designer all at the same time. You can do that through the publisher, and you don't have to do multiple saves. So first I'll create a publisher set for PDF to consultant 1. And I should be able to drag and drop and duplicate that. So I'm holding the Option key as I drag that in order to copy it down. So it's a quick way to duplicate it works for any view, any layout, or any folder in a publisher set. So now I have my 3 consultants that I'm going to save content to. I can come to the layout book now and say that I need floor plans to consultant 1. I'm going to drag those layouts over here, floor plans to consultant 2, and exterior details to consultant 2, and to consultant 3. So now I have these 3 PDFs, different content in each. Some of it's duplicated, some of it's unique to each consultant. What I can do from here, the format is set to PDF. If I look at the publishing properties, there's a few options in here. I can save files, I can plot or print files, or I can upload a BIMX hypermodel. We do not upload the hypermodels. That's to an offsite Graphisoft hosted service. We will occasionally still save out BIMX files, and I'll show you that here in just a minute. And we do that as a local file, not as an upload to that SharePoint. We can create a single file. The only option for single file is BIMX or PDF, and this is really intended to be a local BIMX content file. The real folder structure versus the flat folder structure, that's whether or not the subfolders that may exist within a given folder are going to be maintained. So a real folder structure is going to maintain those. A flat folder structure is going to disregard and put them all into their own native folder. I'm going to create a real folder structure. I'm going to browse my local system and set that to desktop. Should work fine right here. And then say OK. The other thing that I can do is I can select this folder and say merge to single PDF. For this one, for this one. Maybe this one I want to have the individual sheets separate from that. And then I'm going to collapse these back down and select those. Down here at the bottom, I can say selected items only, so it's going to disregard these linked folders. This little arrow right here indicates that this is linked from the layout book. So everything that gets added to the layout book gets added here. The idea with that is that the layouts to PDF folder, if you create a folder, actually which one are we layouts? Oh, we're in the wrong one, layouts to DWG. Regardless, so in here, this one. In here, if I create a folder, I can drag that down. I don't have to have the organizer up. Anyway, this is intended to be used for creating this content, not publishing straight from this content, because there's just going to be way too many sheets in a typical set that we don't need to be included, even in our construction documents. We're not necessarily showing the ME plans. In this case, document options, I can go to PDF options, and there's some compression options and resolution options in here, full color, hairline, etc. But then I just hit publish. I'll save you the pain of watching my computer process for 10 minutes while it publishes those. But that's all you have to do to get multiple PDFs saved out. The next option is the BIMX option. So in here, these are linked to a folder in the view map. So if I scroll down here to, let's just collapse this down so we can see a little bit better. So model export, for example, there is BIMX right here. This folder right here has these pre-linked views. That's what that little up arrow indicates. The gray folder indicates that it's the view map, not the layout book. Blue folders are from the layout book. If I want to update the view or create a new view, let's go ahead and just do that right now. Give it a couple seconds. Zoom extents, and let's work on this building here that I've been cranking away on. We'll isolate that out, zoom to it, and redefine. Oops, and redefine with current view settings. We have to reserve it first. And then redefine with current view settings. So here's that BIMX export folder. It's updated right here. If I double click on it, that's the exact view that we have. It's processing for a second for some reason. So in the format options for this though, and the publisher options, got a little glitch going on. Let's go to the publishing properties. I'm going to create a single file, save file, single file. BIMX hypermodel, the info set, that's the properties, the information, project info, etc. that's attached to that BIMX file. You could say none, you could say classifications and properties. Again, give it a local file system destination. I always publish to the desktop and relocate from there. It's just less glitchy and infinitely faster. The architect's credits and hypermodel, in the hypermodel, that's the project preview image. It's under ArchiCAD and info or architect's info. There's a way to basically get a preview of the model, or the template by default has the Walker Warner logo. Going to my desktop, give it a file name, so and this is the one time that I do want to create a single file, save file, single file. Say OK. And here the format is BIMX hypermodel because it is a 3D view. I'm going to save the selected file. Under options, you can set the default background, and you can limit the texture size. So if the file is too big, you can limit that. We can also save camera paths or set cameras as static previews within the BIMX hypermodel. I think that that's less and less useful now that we're using Twinmotion for most of our visualization. From here, all you have to do is select it and say publish, and it'll crank it out. And again, I'm not going to record the 10 minutes it's going to take to process that BIMX model, and we'll look at the BIMX model later on as we get into document coordination. The last thing to show you is the layouts to DWG in the paper space. So this would be if you had, say, the interior elevations. You don't want to save out each interior elevation as an individual DWG. You want to save out maybe 5, 6, 10, 15 pages of interior elevations as a single DWG. So what we can say is interior with details. Let's just combine a couple of sheet types together here. So in the layout book, I can grab all of my exterior details. I can grab my interior elevation sheets, drop those into here. So I have all of those sheet types, those layouts in here. Under publishing properties, this should say real folder structure, save files, browse to a local file system, to my desktop, and say OK. And here I'm going to select those sub pieces and save the format as a DWG. This gives me another set of information here, additional to what it would show in PDF. I get a translator default. For further editing is a good default translator to work from. If I go to the translator settings, here I can refine the save settings of this DWG. And here I want to say that these are going to save as a single DWG file. And I want to say that they're saving to model space. This is where we can define whether it's an XREF onto a paper space, or if it's combining into a single model space in AutoCAD. The rest of it really doesn't matter too much what it's set to. ArchiCAD's going to do what it does with the attributes, which is never pretty. But for something like interior elevations where there may be just a background base or a starting point, this has always worked for us. Floor plans, we can get into cleanup on those a little bit later. And then I can select the folder that these are in and say merge to one DWG. Just like I did with the PDF, I'm merging that to a single DWG. What it's going to do then is it will take, let's go to the door and window details that we were laying out before. It's going to take these drawings and it's going to actually array them in a single line along that DWG. So it works really well for interior elevations, but we do need to save PDFs with it so that the consultant can see what the interior elevation is, where it should be on the layout, and what the name of that drawing is. And again, the processing of this is anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes once you hit publish. So for the sake of training, we'll just leave it at that. Once it's set to selected items, all you have to do is click publish and your content goes out. You can technically even batch produce multiple content. So if this is not in that folder, I can save out a DWG and a PDF at the same time. If I bring in this view as part of that, I can save that as a JPEG at the same time. I do not believe that you can save that as a BIMX at the same time because it's a different save option for the two publisher sets. But you can save multiple formats in one kind of sweep by selecting those items, setting the format, and exporting them. Schedules can be exported as Excel, although sometimes the publisher is sort of the longhand way to get to just a simple file save as option.